What's going on, y'all? Today we're going to be comparing two daily trainers, and those are the Brooks Ghost 17s, which is one of the best selling daily trainers on the market, versus the brand new Skechers Aero Sparks. Skechers just came out with a line of performance running shoes, so let's see how these two daily trainers compare. So as always, we're going to start off with the outsole, the traction as well as durability on the outsole for both of these shoes. So starting out with the Brooks line, this honestly looks like every other Ghost outsole that they've ever had, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And in my opinion, I actually did have some traction issues with this shoe, especially with sandy roads on the beach. Now, obviously that is a very niche surface to run on, but since I'm based in Southern California, that's a lot of the terrain that I run on. But that's when I had a lot of problems with the traction. However, in normal road conditions, in good weather, you're not gonna have a problem with this traction pattern. I just feel like the grip wasn't as good as I remember, maybe with the Brooks Ghost 16s, but also I was living in San Francisco at the time, so definitely different terrain and different weather conditions. I just didn't feel like the traction was the best in the Ghost 17s, but I think if you're running in pretty good weather as well as pretty decent roads, you're gonna be definitely fine in the Ghost 17. So overall, traction for me was maybe average to slightly below average. I would like to see a little bit better traction from the Brooks Ghost 17, but that's just my experience in the shoe. So as you can see, it does have a pretty thick layer of outsole rubber material, and it has really good coverage throughout the whole outsole, so that's always a good sign. So durability wise as well, I have about 50 miles on this pair, and I do think that the rubber on the outsole is wearing down quite a bit, but since it is a thicker layer, I do think that it'll last a decent amount of time. I don't think it's going to be extra durable or above average necessarily in the durability compartment, but I do think that it's going to hold its own and it's at least going to be average. So overall, the outsole was decent on the Go 17. Now let's talk about the Skechers Aero Spark outsole. So this honestly is one of my favorite outsoles in a daily trainer right now. I'm a big fan of Adidas Continental rubber outsoles as well as Puma grip outsoles. I think that they make the best outsoles in the game right now, but Skechers came in hot with a Goodyear collaboration on that rubber compound of the outsole, and honestly I got really good traction. Maybe it's due to this also really cool wavy outsole pattern. I think it looks pretty sick, as well as the rubber compound that they use. The traction on this shoe was very, very good for a running shoe. Obviously, you're not like crossing people up in basketball or anything, but I did have very good traction in this outsole. I didn't have a chance to test either of these in wet weather conditions because I live in California, but in the conditions that I ran in, I really had no problems with the outsole in the Skechers, and I would say that the outsole is definitely above average when it comes to traction on the outsole. So as for durability, I have around 40 miles in this pair, or I think 40 to 45. I'm not exactly sure the exact mileage, but around 40 to 45. And the outsole looks to be holding up very well. It's a little bit thinner of a layer of an outsole on this pair, and I don't exactly know how long it's gonna last, but since it has that Goodyear collaboration, my head just automatically, maybe I'm falling for the marketing, but I think that it would last a decent amount of time, if not maybe just an average amount of time if you have a good rubber compound, but maybe a thinner slab of that good rubber compound. So hopefully this pair would last around 250 to 300 miles, which is pretty standard for me in most daily trainers. So if I had to give an edge for outsoles, I'm definitely giving it to the Skechers Aero Spark. Maybe the Brooks Go 17 will last a little bit longer for the outsole because the thickness of the outsole is thicker than the Skechers outsole, but the traction quality for sure wins with the Skechers Aero Spark. So Skechers Aero Spark wins by a landslide for traction, and for durability, I'm gonna give the slight edge to the Brooks Go 17 just because it's more of a hypothesis. I don't have enough mileage to kind of compare the two outsoles, but I think that since the outsole is so much thicker on the Go 17, I'm gonna give it the slight edge. Now, let's talk about cushioning setups in both of these shoes. We're gonna start with the Go 17s, which is honestly a little bit of a boring kind of cushion setup, no offense to Brooks, but you kind of get a DNA Loft V3 midsole in the Brooks Go 17, and not that it's a bad foam, but it's just not a super exciting foam, which I get, it's a daily trainer and whatnot, but they did increase the price to $150, so that's why I kind of wanted to see a little bit more effort on Brooks's end. Maybe they could have gave like DNA Gold would be asking a lot because that's like their Piba blend, or DNA Flash. That would be kind of sick. And the stack height, I'm gonna put them right here. because I don't remember off the top of my head. But these two shoes I think have similar stack heights, which is why I'm comparing them. And someone also did ask in the comment section down below for this comparison. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'm going to talk about how the cushion setup felt in the Go 17. It felt very stable and very kind of quote unquote boring, but boring in a good way, where I felt fully supported. There was a decent amount of impact protection, and there was a lot, and I repeat, a lot of ground feel in the Go 17s. Like the forefoot doesn't look super thin in this shoe, but I was feeling the ground after a mile, and it didn't matter if I was running fast or slow. I had a lot of ground feel in this shoe. So if you like that kind of old school daily trainer vibe, I think that you're gonna really like the Go 17 setup. It did have decent impact protection, but if you are planning to do long runs in this daily trainer, either you're really fit or you're definitely a lot lighter than me, because I don't think I could do, maybe over 13 miles in this shoe without kind of wanting a more cushioned shoe, or maybe a more exciting shoe. Maybe I've been spoiled with all the shoes that I own. But I think that the impact protection, especially in the forefoot, I wish there was just a little bit more forefoot cushioning. And then also the DNA loft it's just nothing special. It's not super soft, not super firm. It's kind of a nice in between, and you don't get a lot of bounce, especially in the forefoot. I just honestly felt the outsole material every time I compressed the foam in the forefoot. But yeah, very stable foam. I think if you have some problems, overpronating or supinating, but you don't want a stability shoe, I think that the Go 17 is going to be a great option. It's probably why it's one of the best selling daily trainers on the market. I think a lot of running shoe stores recommend people buy the Ghost, as well as I know that a lot of people pair their orthotics or insoles with this shoe. So, can't really hate on it. But if you're expecting anything flashy or anything really comfortable from the Go 17, I don't think you're going to get the best bang for your buck. I think you're going to get a really stable, really solid, no BS type daily trainer, and you're going to get a lot of ground feel, especially if you're around 200 pounds like myself. Now, let's talk about the Skechers Aero Spark midsole, which honestly, in my opinion, is a lot more exciting than the Go 17s. So the Skechers Aero Spark uses a Hyper Burst Ice midsole. I believe that's what it's called. I had to read it because I don't really know Skechers terminology too well. This is my first Skechers performance running shoe. And it does have arch fit, which honestly, I don't think it's a super big deal. I don't really have arch problems. I have kind of flat feet, but I only noticed the arch fit in the very beginning when I first wore the shoe. It feels like a kind of like a hug on your arch, which does feel decently nice. But honestly, after breaking in the shoe and after running in it more, like I didn't really feel the arch fit anymore. So to me, maybe it's not a super big deal, but if you're curious about the arch fit, it does hug your arch, which feels kind of nice, but it kind of goes away, or I don't really notice it after a while. So not super, I guess, important to me, but that's there if you want it. The carbon infused kind of hyper burst ice midsole, I think, is the same as the Brooks line of a cushion setup. I think it's the same as DNA Tunes. So if you look closely, there is kind of like this icy look. I guess that's why they call it Hyperburst Ice, but there's kind of like an encased foam with this setup, and it kind of reminds me of the Brooks Glycerin 22 as well as the Brooks Glycerin Max, which that one I actually do have. The cushion setup feels exactly the same. I think someone also commented that they actually use the same exact foam. It's from the same company that manufactures the foam, I think in China. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's the exact same foam. So you're basically getting a super premium foam in a daily trainer that's actually even cheaper than the typical daily trainer price. This is retailed at $130, or I think $120 to $130. So it's a very comfortable foam. It's definitely a more premium foam. It's on the softer side, however, so if you don't like soft foams, then this one might not be for you. But since it is a lower stack of a softer foam, I never really felt like I was sinking into the shoe, because in the forefoot, I did compress the foam pretty quickly, and you still do get a lot of ground feel in this shoe. Stability-wise, I would say that the Go 17 is definitely more stable, but the Skechers definitely isn't like unstable by any means, but if you supinate or overpronate a lot, you might want to get either a stability shoe or the Ghosts. This is definitely more of an exciting ride, and it definitely feels a little bit more impact absorbent and feels a little bit more premium on foot. Definitely on the softer side though, so if you don't like soft foams, then this one might not be for you. But overall, very, very comfortable. Again, since this is a lower stack shoe, It's kind of crazy nowadays. I think I'm getting spoiled with all the high stacks. I don't necessarily think that I would run like super long in this shoe. I definitely think I can run maybe half marathon. 10 to 13 miles is no problem in this shoe. And I think that the impact protection is very, very comfortable in the shoe as well. So I'm not gonna have any problems there, but if you're looking to run past that, I don't think this is the daily trainer for you. I think you're gonna have to stick to the tried and true, like Nova Blast 5s, maybe the Rebels, the Saucony Ride 18s, or the Pegasus 41s. Like I can run like 15 to 16. I don't know. It's all personal preference. So overall, though, when it comes to cushion setup, I personally think that you're definitely getting more bang for your buck with these Skechers. I personally also think it's more comfortable of a foam, a little bit more exciting. It's not as responsive, but it's definitely more on the softer side. And I just commend Skechers for putting a little bit more effort than Brooks did in this daily trainer, especially at the $20 price difference. This one priced at $130 and this one priced at $150. I think that this cushion setup is definitely a lot better, unless you really, really want a stable, non-BS, not super soft shoe. Then the Brooks 17 midsoles is gonna maybe perform a little bit better for you. And last but not least, we are gonna talk about the uppers and the fits of both of the shoes. So starting out with the Brooks Go 17s, you're gonna get a, again, non-BS approach. You're just gonna get a regular mesh with some synthetic overlays, not the most breathable. The tongue is also not gusseted, so sometimes it kind of moves around, but it didn't really bother me too much. And then this year they have that kind of Achilles pillow, or kind of that, I don't know what this is called, to be honest. I should know what it's called, but I just call it an Achilles pillow. Not the biggest fan, I guess, of this. I guess I do have, like, I'm starting to have Achilles problems, but I don't know if that Achilles pillow really helps. I don't know. I don't really see the difference, too much of a difference. But yeah, overall, super comfortable upper, nothing crazy. Yeah, it doesn't blow my socks off, and then also doesn't hurt my feet. So I'm kind of neutral about this whole upper. Brooks does get their sizing very consistent, which I will give them kudos for. So I went true to size. I have a slightly wider than average foot, and there is a little bit of room in the toe box, which I personally really like, especially in a daily trainer where, you know, I'm doing a lot more easy miles and stuff. So yeah, the Brooks upper is non-BS, very supportive. Heel lockdown is really good, especially when you do the runner's loop. I really like the laces on Brooks shoes typically. But yeah, like nothing special. Like if you've had a Brooks shoe in the past, or you have a Brooks shoe, it's pretty much the same thing, you know, like you're gonna get a really reliable upper, a really good fit. The lasts on Brooks are really good, like they're typically very consistent. So yeah, not really too much else to talk about with the Brooks Go 17's upper. Very solid and very good. Now, the Skechers Aero Sparks upper, I feel like it's a kind of thicker knit material. I think they say it's a mesh on their website, but it definitely feels more cloth-like. What I do like about the upper is that it's very soft. It's a little bit softer than the Go 17's upper in my opinion, but I don't like that it feels a little bit thick. The ventilation is decent. I don't know, like, I mean, there's a little bit of light shining through when I do the light test, but it's not the best. And also, like, I really like the upper material, but I wish it was a little bit thinner, just so that the shoe overall is a little bit lighter and stuff. And then the tongue is super fat for no reason. And then they use kind of a heavy nubuck material, which is kind of like a synthetic suede or a synthetic leather, that I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is a gusseted tongue. But overall, I mean, like the fit is true to size. It definitely feels a little bit more snug and a little bit more like a race fit than the Go 17s. Not, I mean, not like super race fit, but kind of like definitely a more tight fit and less room in the toe box and stuff, but feels really, really comfortable though. I really like the materials that they use. It's a very soft upper, like I said, and you are going to be able to kind of accommodate a lot of different foot shapes and sizes, as I do have a wider than average foot. These do run true to size, and yeah, like I think that my only complaints on this upper is that it's a little bit on the thicker side, and I think the tongue could also use a little bit of shaving maybe on the padding, and maybe lighter materials just to make the shoe overall lighter. Heel lockdown was really good. I typically do the runner's loop in these, but I've also tried it without the runner's loop, and it definitely has pretty decent heel lockdown without the runner's loop. So kind of up to your preference. So overall, I would say for the upper and the fit, the Skechers honestly are going to win for me. I just feel like they put a little bit more effort into the upper, which I personally want to commend them for. Whether that means anything or not, I mean, that's up to you or up to the companies if they even watch these videos. But yeah, the fit just feels a little bit more snug, a little bit more streamlined. And then also I like the upper materials. The one complaint I do have is kind of the ventilation or lack of ventilation, as well as I think they could have definitely lightened up this whole shoe by lightening the upper and maybe the materials on the shoe. But then again, they might do that for their more premium running shoe line. I think the Aero Tempos or something like that. So maybe I might have to try those shoes out. So overall, these two daily trainers, honestly, I'm gonna have to give the win to the Skechers Aero Spark. I mean, if you can kind of get past the whole brand thing, you know, like I totally get not everyone wants to run in Skechers, or maybe Skechers has like a bad name. They're known a little bit for copying other brands, or you know, being a little bit more on the cheaper side. But if you can kind of get past the name and maybe the design, or I don't know, like your kind of beef with brands, or if you're brand agnostic, then this is a fantastic daily trainer, especially priced at $130 when a lot of daily trainers are upped now to $145 to $150, like the Brooks Go 17s. I think you're getting a very good value. Like you're getting a really good outsole, like one of the top, I would say top 3 or top 4 outsole. And then yeah, you're getting a premium foam. You're getting a more knitted upper than a regular daily trainer. And overall, the shoe just feels a little bit more expensive on the foot than your typical daily trainer. Not to say that, you know, the Brooks Go 17 feels cheap in any way. I think that Brooks is just so consistent over the years. Like they don't make a whole lot of changes typically for their models year to year, except for the Brooks Hyperion 3 or the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Excuse me. Those ones are fantastic. But yeah, I think the Go 17 is not a bad shoe. I just didn't like that they increased the price by $10 and they didn't really do anything too crazy to upgrade for that $10 from last year's model. Like the Go 16 that I had, I really personally really liked. And I don't think that this is a huge step up from last year's model. And also like the feel of it and whatnot, like for $10 more, I just think that they could have done a little bit more, like at least replace the DNA Loft foam with like DNA Flash or something like that to show that they're trying, or there's a justification for their price increase. But I just didn't really see it with the Go 17, and it's not a bad shoe. Again, if you have $150 or you know you are a Brooks fan, you are gonna like these. I just didn't like that they increased the price and didn't really increase the performance or anything too much about this shoe. So overall, I do prefer the Skechers Aero Spark for $130, but again, it's all up to you guys. You guys are the consumer, so whatever you guys want to buy, I mean, whatever works for you, right? So that's going to pretty much wrap up my comparison of the Skechers Aero Spark versus the Brooks Go 17. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have either, or if you're considering the pairs. If I miss anything, please feel free to comment down below and ask me. I'll do my best to get back to everyone, and I will catch you guys in the next video.